Good afternoon and welcome to our Bible study today in John. Bible study from Dr. David Jeremiah. Let's get going. We are in chapters 5 and 6. Let me turn another light on here so I can see it. It's raining outside, so it's a little pulling me. Not getting the light in from the windows like I usually do. Okay, let's get started here. How long can you go without physical nourishment before you start to feel the effects? How long can you go without spiritual nourishment before you start feeling the effects? Good afternoon, Miss Lisa McClure. Welcome. Setting the stage. The third miracle Jesus. Let me try this again, excuse me. The third miracle of Jesus that John records in his gospel is the healing of the man at the pool of Bethesda. It is in John 5, 1 through 9. This miracle is pivotal to John's narrative because it initiates a change in how the Jewish people began to react to him. Up to this point, Jesus had been well received. Let me work on this sunny here. There we go. That's a little better anyway. Jesus had been well received, but now he will begin to be confronted by people's unbelief and hostility. Good afternoon, Miss Teresa. This sentiment will only intensify as his ministry progresses. What Jesus does in this chapter of John's Gospel is what eventually leads to his death. It begins with Jesus taking pity on an individual, a man who had been no way to help himself and had no one else to help him. The problem with that is Jesus helped the man on the Sabbath, and the Jewish leaders could not excuse him for violating their restrictions against working on that day. In their zeal to protect the Sabbath rules, they ignored the undeniable miracle that had taken place right before their eyes. Jesus demonstrated his power over sickness and his ability to heal a person who had been unable to walk for 38 years. The miracle took place in Jerusalem during the Feast of the Jews, verse 1. But John doesn't specify whether it was the Feast of Passover, which is in March or April, Pentecost, which is 52 days later, or Tabernacles, which is in September or October. Regardless, this would have been a time of happiness and celebration for the Jewish people, or at least for most of them. Jesus, however, went to a place in the city where few were celebrating. The pool of Bethesda was fed by an underground spring, which occasionally stirred the waters, though some thought an angel was responsible. People believed the water in the pool had healing effects, so all manner of blind, disabled, and sick people gathered there. This is where Jesus went, and this is where the reaction of him changed quickly and dramatically. Exploring the text, the man healed at the pool of Bethesda. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went to Jerusalem. Now there in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, is a pool, which is called in Hebrew is called Bethesda, having 5 porches. All these laid a great multitude of people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after the stirring of the water was made, well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity for 38 years. When Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had already been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." And immediately the man was made well, took up his bed, and walked. The day was a Sabbath, and the Jews therefore said to him who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, it is not lawful for you to carry your bed." He answered them, "The man who made me well said, 'Take up your bed and walk.'" And they asked him, "Who is this man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the one who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, and a multitude began in them. with John and a multitude being in the place. Afterwards Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, See, you have been made well. Well, sin no more, or at least worse things come upon you. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Now, why did the multitudes of the sick, blind, lame, and paralyzed people mentioned in the passage lie beside the pool of Bethesda for healing? For healing. Question number 2. The Pharisees did not care that the man who had been immobile for 38 years was suddenly able to walk. What their great concern was about the man was he was carrying his mat, his bed, on the Sabbath. The authority of the Son. John 5:16-30. For this reason, the Jews persecuted Jesus and sought to kill him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, My Father has been working until now, and I have been working. Therefore the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Then Jesus answered and said to them, Most assuredly I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all things that he himself does. He will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father rises the dead and gives life to them, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that all should honor the Son just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who hears my word and believes in him who sent me has everlasting life, and it shall not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. Most assuredly, I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear it will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son to have life in himself, and has given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Do not marvel at this, for the hour is coming when all who are in the grave will hear his voice and come forth. Those who have done good, to the resurrection of life, and for those who have done evil, to the resurrection of condemnation. I can of myself do nothing. As I hear I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I don't seek but my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me. Okay. Question number 3. What caused the Jewish leaders to suddenly desire to kill Jesus? He healed on the Sabbath. And said God was his Father. And he was the Son of God. Question number 4. What authority did Jesus claim that God the Father has given him to do? Let's look at verses 24 through 27. Okay, this gets kind of deep, so let me read it again for y'all and for myself. I'm not just going to say for y'all, but for myself. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who hears my word So the authority did Jesus claim that the Father gave him. Those who hear my words and believe in him who sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come to judgment, but has passed from death to life. Most assuredly I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear it will live. For as for the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son to have life in himself, and so has given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Again, the question is, what authority did Jesus claim that God the Father had given him to execute judgment? Jesus feeds the 5,000. This is in John 6, 1 through 15. After these things, Jesus went over to the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude followed him, because they saw the signs which he had performed on those who were diseased. And he went up on a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. Now the Passover and the feast of the Jews was near. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that they may eat?" But this he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad here that has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but what is that among so many?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in the number of 5,000. Jesus took the loaves, and when he gave thanks, he distributed them among the disciples, and the disciples who were sitting down, and likewise the fish, as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, Jesus had his disciples gather up the fragments that remained, so that nothing is lost. Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which were left over in those who had eaten it. Then those men, when they had seen the sign Jesus had done, said, this is truly the prophet who is to come into the world." Before then Jesus perceived that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king. He departed again to the mountains by himself. Question number 5. What question did Jesus ask Philip in order to test him? And what solution to the problem did Andrew provide? How to feed the people, and Andrew had found 5 loaves and 2 fish. How did the people react when they witnessed this miracle of Jesus's? How did this cause Jesus to retreat into a mountain alone? The people saw the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. Fishes, and were going to make him king. the bread of life. John 6:41 through 60. The Jews then complained to him because he said, I am the bread which comes down from heaven. And they said, This is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it that he says, I have come down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered and said to them, Do not murmur among yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. I will raise him up on the last days, for it is written in the prophets. One moment, please. Hold on just a second. Let me give you a call back when I'm done. Bye. Okay, where was I? Jesus answered, saying to them, Do not murmur amongst yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. I will raise him up on the last day. It is written in the prophets, and it shall come all be taught by God. Therefore, anyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from the Father, for he has seen the Father. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who believes in me has everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they are dead. This is bread which comes down from heaven, and the one may eat it and not die. I am the living bread which comes down from heaven. If anyone eats this bread, he will live forever, and the bread that shall give, if anyone eats this bread, he shall live forever, and the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. The Jews therefore quarreled amongst themselves. How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said to them, Most assuredly I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him on the last days. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood a drink indeed. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. As the living Father sent me, I live because the Father's of the Father. So he who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread which comes down from heaven. Not as your fathers ate the manna, nor the dead. He who eats this bread will live forever. These things he said in the synagogue, as he taught in Capernaum. Therefore, many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, This is a hard thing. This is a hard saying. Who can understand it? Question number 7. What did Jesus mean when he said that he was the bread of life? (48 through 51). Let me get back here. 48 through 51. Also, surely I say to you, who believes in me has everlasting life, for I am the bread of life. So if they eat the bread of life, they let me see if I can find my words for this, guys. I'm gonna try really hard. He was the Son of God. Son of God. We bring him into us. As we would bread. I may not be explaining this correctly. My words are a little hard for me to come up with how to explain this correctly. Question 8. Why was this teaching difficult for many people to grasp? What did they do as a result? 52 and 60. The 60th synagogue, we taught Capernaum. Many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, This is a hard saying. Who can understand it? So, said it was hard to understand. Previewing the story. Nicodemus, the religious leader who came to see Jesus at night, referred to him as teacher come from God. That's in John 3:2. His middle ground statement revealed that he acknowledged Jesus' supernatural power, but ignored his claim to be the Messiah. As the story of John 5 and 6 revealed, Jesus quickly removed any such wiggle room. He spoke of his identity of the Son of God, as God identity as God the Son, who would one day judge the righteous and the unrighteous. He demonstrated his divine power by performing many more miracles. His words and deeds strengthened the faith of some of his followers, but alienated others, also served to enrage his enemies. Why do you think Jesus asked the man by the pool of Bethesda whether he wanted to be made well before his healing? Why did he ask if he wanted to be made well before healing him? He had been sick, been unable to walk for 38 years. I believe it was 38 years. So he had to believe he could, and that Jesus could heal him. Question number 10. The Jewish leaders began plotting to kill Jesus when he healed this man on the Sabbath. Why did Jesus say to them that served to intensify their desire to kill him? See John 5:17. Let's go back and look at that. John 5:17. Let me look. Is that John 5? Yeah. John 5:17. But Jesus answered, My Father has been working until now, and I have been working. Yep. But Jesus answered them, saying, My Father has been working until now, and I have been working. Because he said he and God had been working. Okay. Question 11. How did the disciples demonstrate their lack of faith when Jesus tested them by asking where they would find the food for the 5,000? They did not have enough money to buy for all. Question number 12. How was Jesus, the bread of life who came from heaven, different from manna, the bread of heaven that the Israelites ate in the wilderness? How were they different? 649 and 58. 649. Let me find that right quick. Your fathers ate manna in the wilderness, and they are dead. And 40, 49 and 58. This bread which came down from heaven is not as your fathers ate the manna and are dead. He who eats this bread will live forever. The bread of life is life. Oh, that's not right. The bread of life will bring life. The bread of heaven will still die. Applying the message. Question number 13. The man who lay beside the pool of Bethesda had been seeking healing for some time, and his response to Jesus indicated that he had all but given up hope. In what ways can you relate to his feelings? What are some areas in your life where you're waiting for healing? Let y'all think on that one. And let's see, what is question 14? Many of Jesus' followers struggled with the idea that he is the bread of life. Which of his teaching is especially hard for you to understand, accept, and follow? And why? These two questions, I think, are meaning for ourselves, so I'm going to leave it like that. I just wanted to let you know that they are there, 13 and 14. I will read both of them again. Question 13. The man who lay by the pool of Bethesda was seeking healing for some time, and his response to Jesus indicates he had all but given up hope. In what ways can you relate to his feelings? What are some of the areas in your life where you're waiting for healing? Question 14. Many of Jesus' followers struggled with the idea that he is the bread of life. Which of his teachings are especially hard for you to understand, accept, and follow, and why? Okay. Reflecting on the meaning. Here we go. Jesus fed excuse me, Jesus is feeding the 5,000 in one of 7 miracles around which John structured his gospel. In a remote area, Jesus used the meager provisions of a young boy to feed thousands of hungry people. John's account illustrates Jesus' loving concern for the multitude, as well as his authority and power. It also raises a few important questions for us as his followers. The first question, the episode asks us to consider what resources we have that God can use. Every follower of Christ has a gift. Some of us have a gift of song, some have a gift of compassion, some of us have the gift of mercy, some of us have the gift of ministry. Others of us may feel we don't have much to offer, but that is not the point. The point is that we are willing to offer God what we do have, just as the boy did with the loaves and fish. The second question the story asks us to consider is whether we have asked God to bless the resources we have been given. John writes that Jesus took the little boy's lunch and prayed over it, and that that was when the miracle occurred. When Jesus asked God to bless the food, we can all have giftedness in the world. We can be the most talented people in our community, but God is not going to use our talents until we take them to Him and ask Him to bless them. The third question the account compels us to ask is whether we are willing to allow God to use our resources for His glory. The final step is to put what we have into circulation, What we choose to do, we are saying, in effect, is, Lord God, here is my gift. Please bless it. It is yours. Do with it as you please. Make these Make these questions personal today. What have you to offer God? Have you given it to Jesus? Have you asked Him to bless it? Are you willing for Him to take your gift and use it any way He wants? If so, prepare for your gift to be multiplied and used to bless others. Thank you all for coming and joining with me for our readings and questions and answer period here in John 5 and 6. We will get into 7 and 8 next week. I hope to see y'all then. Until then, y'all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you later. Bye now.